As the population of Princeton exploded and our membership expanded, we outgrew our original space. And in 1931, we moved a short distance to 202 Nassau Street, which offered more space for our broadening range of services. Here, our predecessors paid a reasonable rent and were able to host meetings and provide office space on the first floor, while the basement was utilized for games and recreational purposes.
At minimum, there were 14 social and professional clubs for women and girls active at all times. In addition, classes like cooking, tap dancing, typewriting, and even sex education were offered on a regular basis. Community collaborations with the YMCA, McCarter Theater, and the Theological Seminary became more frequent, and attendance grew for annual events like the Christmas pageant and our membership dinner.
When I first joined YWCA Princeton, McCarter Theater was one of the first community organizations to introduce themselves to me. I joined Artistic Director Sarah Rasmussen for a fireside chat in November to discuss the challenges of joining a new organization during a pandemic, creating equity in our respective fields, and dreaming of future collaborations. But collaborating with McCarter Theater is nothing new for the YW. In 1931, they hosted a production of Patience by the Montclair Operetta Company, raising $900 to benefit our organization.
At the height of the Great Depression, securing funding became a major challenge for YWCA Princeton and the Witherspoon branch. Throughout the decade, our organization's annual operating budget was less than $8,000. In today's money, that's nearly $158,000. To highlight the needs for funding, Ethelind B. Dandridge, Executive Director at Witherspoon, wrote in a 1935 report,
"To close the doors of this association would be the same as locking the doors of the home. For such it has become for a group of girls between the hours of 3 and 6, 5 days a week, and all day on Saturday."
And she was right. Without the Witherspoon YWCA, there weren't many youth enrichment opportunities for young women of color.
So I went to the Witherspoon School for Colored Children because it was a segregated Princeton, but we didn't know it was segregated. You know, our parents didn't say you're living in a segregated town. We knew it when we couldn't go up on Nassau Street because we weren't welcomed in the stores in Nassau Street. But that was okay because almost every other house was a grocery store or an ice cream parlor or a beauty parlor. So we had everything. There were so many business people in our community at that time. I went to the Y, but it was a colored Y, and it was where the Arts Council is now. And that's where, when I was a teenager, we had a group called the Darlettes. And we weren't singing, it was our girls group, and we had a lot of activities there. There was a purpose for that Y, because the only activities were the churches and the Y. So my experience in Princeton growing up was a wonderful experience.
Throughout the decade, the leadership of Margaretta Link, a volunteer who would later become our board member and president, was essential. She committed herself to the welfare of the YW throughout economic and wartime challenges. I think that the Princeton YW has been foundational to this community. And, you know, people look for institutions that have stability, that know how to help families, that can strengthen women and girls. And that's what the YW is really known for. You know, there's a saying that once you're a YW girl, you're always a YW girl, no matter your age. And so what's instilled in being a YW member is having a can-do attitude, understanding that hardships happen, and that when we work together to, you know, collaborate, to figure out, to seek help from and with, that things can be overcome, and you take one step at a time.
Present distress requires caring for the needy, but future problems will always require character in our citizens. And for that, the YWCA is working. We cannot do this without your help. No contribution is too big for this year's need. None is too small to be of service.